Hi there, I'm going to talk to you today about the cost of ownership for a Cessna 172. So my name is Jack Parrish. I'm a flight school owner, former airline pilot. We've got 9 planes in our fleet, so we've learned a little bit about what goes into the cost of ownership for a plane, and I'm going to share that with you guys so you know realistically what you're stepping into if you're looking into buying an aircraft. So today we're going to use a real plane that's listed for sale on Trade-A-Plane. So I found this Cessna 172. It's listed for $105,000. It looks like it's a 1966 L model 172. So potentially something realistic for someone looking on the cheaper end of the Cessna 172s. So let's say in this scenario, you get this Cessna and you get them down $5,000, you get it for $100,000. So that'll make it easy for our numbers. So we're gonna talk about the cost of owning that. First thing, you gotta buy the plane, right? So most people, they're probably going to finance the plane. So if you look through the website here, there's actually an AOPA loan program. So I just threw in the numbers. If you put 20% down, so $20,000 on this plane and finance the rest, the rates they're showing right now would be, on the average loan, you'd be paying around $780 a month after your down payment for that plane on a 15-year loan. So we're gonna use that for our numbers, and that's gonna give us our price per hour at the end and our total price per year. All right, so let's go ahead and run through some of the numbers. So we're gonna start, we've got the purchase price. 100,000, we're doing 20 down, it's gonna be $780 a month, so you bought the plane. I'm not gonna factor in the pre-buy costs because that's just a one-time inspection, usually in the $500 to $1,500 range if you're interested to know how much it costs. You're gonna have some costs for registering the aircraft, if you do title searches, things like that, but for the most part, those are small costs, so we're not gonna list those. Next, we've got our fixed costs, all right? So we already talked about the loan. That's gonna be our first fixed cost. Then we've got insurance. So you want this to be able to replace the whole value of the plane if anything happens, whether it's a prop strike or a total loss. But you also want protection if there was something that happened, say there was some property damage and somebody was suing you, there's some additional protection there. So definitely want insurance. I actually talked to our insurance broker today, and he said in this scenario, this is what he would expect. He said $1,200 to $1,500, so it could be slightly lower, but we went with the high side for the sake of what we're doing today. All right, next, an annual inspection. So this is the average cost if you're just going up to an A&P or a maintenance facility to get an annual inspection. This is required every year to be able to fly your plane. As a private owner, you don't have to do 100 hours, so that saves a little bit of cost, but there still is going to be other maintenance throughout the year that we'll get to later. All right, and the last thing for our fixed costs is the hangar. You could keep your plane out on the ramp, and that would be cheaper, potentially free, depending on the airport. A lot of airports will charge something like $75 a month for a tie down on the ramp, but you definitely, if you're paying this much for a plane, you're gonna wanna keep it in a hangar. You don't wanna get in Texas. I'm in Texas. We've got hail. Getting a hangar is gonna be a good idea. $400 a hangar is what they charge here for a single airplane hangar at the Dallas Executive Airport. That does vary. You could get one for potentially like $250 on the low end, but they also can be much more expensive than that. All right, so we got our all-in fixed costs, $17,360 a year. This does not include our $20,000 down for the first year, okay? So now we're gonna go to our variable costs, or our operating costs to operate the plane. So we got on the low end, $36 an hour for fuel. So that's assuming 6 gallons an hour of fuel burn. It's probably gonna be more than that depending on the type of flying you're doing. So it could be as high as 50. Oil, I'm gonna assume about $2 an hour. Additional maintenance. So if you blow a tire, if you need other things done to the aircraft, we're gonna put $20 an hour there to account for that cost. And then finally, our engine overhaul. This airplane here is gonna have a Continental engine in it. And the price of an overhaul for a plane like that's gonna be around $37,000, $38,000. That can vary with who does it, but that's a pretty typical cost. And that is done every 1,800 to 2,000 hours, depending on the type of engine you've got. All right, so we assumed about an $1,850 an hour cost set aside for that. You're gonna wanna be planning for engine overhaul, okay? Now you can fly beyond the manufacturer's recommendation for engine overhaul times, but that's not a guarantee and not necessarily something that you want to do. All right, so we've got our fixed costs, we've got our hourly costs. So now we can come over here and see, depending on how much we fly every year, what our total cost is and what our cost per hour to fly the plane is, all right? So obviously the more you fly, the more it's gonna cost, but the more you fly, the less it will be per hour, okay? So if you fly 50 hours a year, which is pretty normal for private owners, your all-in cost is gonna be just over $21,000, and your hourly cost to operate the plane will be $423.70. And then you've got to add in that $20,000 for your first year, okay? 100 a year would be $25,000 and $250 an hour. And then if you fly 200 hours a year, which would be a ton for a private owner, that's gonna be $32,660 and $163 an hour. All right, so these are the normal costs, what you would expect. Of course, there's other things that you could factor in, like if you wanted to do an avionics upgrade, or if you wanted to replace the interior, get the exterior painted. So it definitely depends on the condition of the plane in the first place as well, and what you intend to do with it. So this is for a Cessna 172. I'm not sure if this is exactly what you expected. Of course, for some people, they might find things that are slightly different, but this is gonna be pretty typical for cost. So if you have any questions, put them down in the comments and we'll respond to those. And if you have any other airplanes you want us to do this for, put that in the comments as well. We're already planning to do some other Cessna aircraft, especially Cessna 182, since that's one of the most common privately owned aircraft.